you go on a ketogenic diet, within a few months, you will increase the number of mitochondria you have by a factor of 4.
Wow.
And they increase their efficacy by a factor of 4.
Whoa.
So you get this multiplicative increase, and also you're getting the right response at the right time. And that's very important when you're talking about neurons. Vegans, they don't eat any animal products at all. So even if they're slightly deficient in their ability to make carnitine, they'll still get this type of autism. And this is completely preventable and reversible. Nestle is a multinational, multi-trillion-dollar institution that owns dozens and dozens of other companies. They are very well in control of things. So with Coca-Cola, PepsiCo, things like that. It's basically those three. They just run the food industry, right? Yeah. Tyson is a major one as well. But Tyson, and all these different food industries, yes, they make money from meat, but they make a lot more money from everything else. And there's a huge markup on plant-based foods and like sugar and things like that. And sugar is addictive. Sugar sends the fructose is the sweet part of sugar, and sweetest part of sugar, and that gives a dopamine hit to the addiction centers of your brain, just like cocaine, heroin, and meth. Yeah. And there are MRI studies showing that fructose kills the same areas of your brain as meth, to the same extent as meth.
Whoa!
All right, so this is a drug, and they are putting this in. This is the opium trade at the moment, right? So they're just flooding this stuff in, and people are just using it. They don't even realize it, and they're giving it to kids, and they're saying it's good for them, and they're saying these Lucky Charms are okay, and then even Honey Nut Cheerios, was ranked above normal Cheerios. I was like, what? It's like the sugar made it better. Yeah.
Come on, man.
Like, what the hell? And it's absolutely
meth on
ridiculous.
Anything is better, bro.
Probably true.
Fucking hell.
And so, and fructose is degraded and broken down in the same byproducts as alcohol. So it gets turned into the same chemicals as alcohol does.
Acetaldehyde.
Yeah, all that, tons of different junk that it gets turned into.
Right.
So it goes down the same pathway.
Oh, shit.
So fructose gets broken down into the exact same byproducts that alcohol gets broken down into. Now they do different things before they get to the liver, but once they're and then broken down, it's exactly the same.
Wow.
And so it causes the same problems, gram for gram, right? So fatty liver disease, cirrhosis, diabetes, heart disease, even implicated in cancer and Alzheimer's, right? So, there's a link between sugar and Alzheimer's, right? So there's a degradation of an adult, mature, healthy brain to the point of severe dementia and death. What's that doing to a developing brain? What's that doing to a fetus? It's not going to be good, right? And so you actually see this large uptick in neurodevelopmental diseases such as autism. Right. And I think that there's a causative link there. I think, there's a hard correlation.
Yeah, but causation.
I think there is. You see this in a number of, first of all, there's a lot of interventions that just put people on a ketogenic diet, and autism reverses or at least improves significantly in adults when they've already developed. But in kids, if you get them young enough, their brain still has a chance to develop more properly. And that's what autism is, in my view, is it's a misdevelopment of these neurons. You're getting neurons that aren't quite developing properly, and they're just not working properly. In some cases, they found that there were different parts of the brain. They actually had 3 times the number of neurons that you normally find. Oh, wow, well, maybe this is just a different variant, and it's just sort of expressing what it is that those nerves, those brain cells aren't doing the job that the brain needs it to, so it's stimulating more of them to grow. Yeah. Say, hey, no, we need more of this, we need more of this, we need more of this, but they're defunct and they're not working properly.
Right. So they're not transmitting properly.
Exactly. And so, but if you get that early enough, and you sort of get rid of all that crap that's harming them, then they can recover, and those neurons can develop properly. So there's a professor, Chris Palmer from Harvard. He's a professor of psychiatry at Harvard, and he wrote a book called Brain Energy. And I've had him on my podcast. Very interesting guy, but he is reversing schizophrenia, depression, OCD, bipolar, and ADHD and autism by putting people on a ketogenic diet.
Damn.
And he's sort of shown the research behind why he thinks this is working, which is the mitochondria. A lot of things come down to the mitochondria. Cancer comes down to the mitochondria. Most things come down to the mitochondria and disruption of their normal functioning. They don't just produce ATP. So if people don't know, mitochondria are organelles in your cell that produce ATP, which is the energy for life. That's what all life runs on.
Adrenal triphosphate?
Yeah, adenosine triphosphate.
Triphosphate.
Yeah. And so, that is what cells run on. That's the currency of life, right? But they don't just sit there just pumping out ATP. They actually move around the cell. There's these different little structure and lattice inside the cell, and they actually run up and down these tracks, and they go to this part of the cell membrane, and they release ATP. So this releases this neurotransmitter at this time, at this exact location, and this amount, right? And they go over here and they release it to this organelle, so they can make this protein, they can do this, and then go to this, and go to this, and you've got thousands of these little things buzzing around producing ATP. Now, if those things are just a little late and they're not producing quite enough, then you're going to get the wrong signal. It's going to be delayed.
Shit.
Or it's, sometimes things are sort of suppressive, so it's not getting there, and now you're getting too much of a signal.
Yeah.
Right. So you're getting too much of a signal or not enough signal, but either way, you're out of balance. And so when that's happening in your brain, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Especially because you have anywhere from 400 million to 2 trillion neurons, right? And you got hundreds to thousands of these mitochondria in each one of those things. That problem starts to escalate quite severely.
Yeah.
And so when you start damaging these mitochondria, you get serious problems. When your insulin is up, this blocks autophagy, this blocks mitophagy. So autophagy is, or autophagy. Phagy meaning it's like to eat, right? So it's this autophagy. So your body's eating these cells, recycling them, turning them into new cells, new bright-eyed, bushy-tailed cells that work better. But you can also do that with your specific organelles within the cell. So the cell can actually recycle its internal parts and keep itself running and optimized, right? Like your mitochondria. So your mitochondria start running get a little bit decrepit, a little bit broken down, all of this oxidative stress. And so they need to break those down, recycle them for parts, make new ones. And what we found in various studies is that when you go on a ketogenic diet, within a few months, you will increase the number of mitochondria you have by a factor of 4.
Wow.
And they increase their efficacy by a factor of 4.
Whoa.
So you get this multiplicative increase, and also you're getting the right response at the right time. And that's very important when you're talking about neurons. And so he found that this was really to do with that these psychiatric diseases were actually metabolic diseases. And so you fix the metabolism, you fix the mitochondria with diet and other sorts of interventions, that this can cure schizophrenia, OCD, bipolar, major depression, anxiety, ADHD, and autism, if you catch it in time. Adults with autism can be significantly improved in their symptoms and the functioning of their brain and body. But in kids, it's even more dramatic. You can actually reverse the damage. Hey guys, just want to take a second to thank our sponsor at Carnivore Bar. I don't promote many products because honestly, all you need to be healthy is to just eat meat. For those times that you're out hiking, road tripping, or stuck at work and you want a nutritious snack that is just meat, fat, and salt if you want it, the Carnivore Bar is a great option. So I like this product not because it's just pure meat, but also because I want the carnivore market to thrive as well. And the more we support meat-only products, the more meat-only products there will be available in the mainstream. So if this sounds like something you'd like to get behind, check it out using my discount code Anthony to get 10% off, which also applies to subscriptions, giving you 25% off total. All right, thanks guys. There's a number of different studies that I found when I first got curious about this, and I remember looking into it and thinking, wait a minute, well, when I started thinking about medicine from the standpoint of we are humans, and the kind of human we are is a carnivore, and animals have a specific biologically appropriate and designed diet, and we're not eating that. And then just everything in medicine just started slotting into place. And I just started digging into the research and saying, okay, what do we know? What can we prove? And I was spending about 10 hours a day for, 6 months, just reading studies. And so I found quite a lot. And I started asking questions, and I started saying, okay, if this is true, we should see something in the literature, that expresses this. Okay, let's start looking for that. And I would just start looking at these things, asking questions and looking for what because if you have two competing theories, you should be able to find evidence with which to test them against. And so that's what I tried to do. And then I came to sort of the idea that maybe autism was to do with nutrition, and maybe it was tied up in sugar, or maybe it was to do with not eating enough meat. And so I said, okay, well, if that's the case, we should be able to see something in it. Well, so how can we see about, sugar? Are there any studies about specifically does sugar cause autism? Can't we find anything? So you have to ask in a sort of a circuitous way. Mm-hmm. And so I thought, okay, is there a higher rate of autism in kids that are bottle fed with formula, right? Because formula has they take away, fat's bad. We can't give that to kids, even though it's in breast milk. Yeah. That's like literally exactly what they need.
Such a stupid argument.
So dumb. Yeah. And so they replace it with sugar. They know what they're doing. The stuff is addictive. Yeah. And they're getting these kids addictive, and they overeat. And but also they just eat more formula.
Yeah, true.
Right? Because I just want more. It's addictive.
Moreish.
Yeah. And so that exact study has been done. And so they have found that kids that are bottle fed are more likely to get autism. And that study didn't specifically look at formula. It was just bottle fed versus breastfed. Right. But a lot of people who do bottle feed use formula, at least in part. And so now people can express and then put that in the bottles.
You would imagine it would be like that because they can only synthesize so many chemicals, even nutrients, right? There's only so many nutrients that you can synthesize before it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense as to why they would even make that distinction between just bottle and breast. It should be formula and breast.
Oh, it should be. Yeah. But the good thing about that is that most people who bottle feed aren't expressing and then giving a bottle. Yeah. Some people do, but most people will give formula or at least some formula. But people who exclusively breastfeed, they're exclusively breastfeeding. Yeah. Okay. Right. Yeah. And so, but even then, and I think the disparity, the difference would be even more stark if you were like formula versus exclusive breastfeeding or breast milk feeding. I think that would show that the difference is actually even worse.
A lot more binary. You could just say, we have like this and this. Yeah.
But there's already a difference with bottle fed and breastfed.
Right.
There's already an increased correlation or increased incidence of autism in kids that are bottle fed. Right. Mothers who eat more red meat in the 3 months before conception, lower rates of kids with autism. What? Mothers who have higher LDL cholesterol and higher saturated fat intake during pregnancy, lower rates of kids with autism.
What?
Right? So this is getting the necessary nutrients to grow and develop their brain properly.
Dude, that's wild.
Yeah. There's an even more wild one. There's a study out of Texas A&M that found an actual causative link between food and autism, or at least a particular kind of autism, right? Autism spectrum disorder. It's a spectrum of symptoms. I think that means that there's a spectrum of causes and different sorts of parts of the brain that this is affecting to different levels and degrees. And they found, and so that was the thing. I was asking that. I was like, okay, does the absence of meat, do you need meat in order to get, a proper brain development? I would say so. And that was the thing. I asked. I was like, is autism to do with nutrition? And so I thought about it, and so I looked back and I looked at the prevalence and incidence and the sort of the increase in autism and when that started going up. It was at the exact same time as the heart disease, obesity, and diabetes and cancer rates all started going up, and it perfectly tracked up with all the rest of the diseases. So I was like, okay, this could very well be someone with a genetic predisposition and environmental trigger, but because we were eating a lot of meat before, they're not getting that environmental trigger. So the genetics are the same. It's becoming more apparent now because people are radically changing the way they're eating. Yeah. And so I thought, okay, is less meat a risk factor for autism? Okay, we'll look into that. If that's the case, vegans and vegetarians should have higher rates of kids with autism. Yes. And in fact, they do. And so their kids have a much higher rate of autism.
What kind of factor?
I don't recall it at this point, okay. But yeah, right. but it is higher.
Oh, I'm definitely looking into this.
Yeah. And Texas A&M actually found one of the reasons why. Yeah. So they found that you actually have to have carnitine for proper neuronal development. And in fact, talking to Chris Palmer, he was saying, yeah, actually carnitine is integral for mitochondrial health in the brain as well.
That's a medium chain triglyceride as well, isn't it?
It's an amino acid.
It's an amino. Yeah, of course it is.
Yeah, and so it's considered a non-essential amino acid,
right?
Because we make it.
Okay. Right.
Carnitine, carnosine, carnivore, carne, Latin for body, right?
Yeah.
So this comes from bodies. It doesn't come from plants.
I remember taking carnitine before going to the gym and just feeling like an animal.
Yeah. Well, even taking carnitine, that actually increases the testosterone receptors in your cells. So whatever testosterone levels you have, if you have more carnitine, you'll have more receptors. You'll have more of an effect from your testosterone. So yeah, you will do that, and it'll have long-term effects, right? So these things kick off epigenetic sort of effects that affect you weeks and months and years down the chain.
There you go.
And so yeah.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's okay. And so specifically in autism, they found that carnitine was essential for neuronal development and just the normal workings in your body. Now we consider that a non-essential amino acid because we make it. But actually only 70% of people make enough, or even any at all. Some people don't make enough, and some people don't make any. And so literally 30%, that's a big number.
That's huge.
Right? And so depending on what you're eating, you could be in trouble because carnitine does not exist in plants, right? You have to get it from meat. It exists in most animal products, most dairy, but it is most abundant in red meat.
Red meat.
What's the first thing that vegetarians drop?
Red meat.
Red meat, right? Because that's the worst.
Fish and chicken.
That's it.
Yeah.
Well, again, it's the best.
Yeah.
Right. And this is another reason why, yes, we make carnitine, but actually having more carnitine is actually beneficial in a lot of ways. And, I mean, we make, other things that we have and it makes it's non-essential, but we actually do better when we have more of it, and we get a lot of it from meat and things like that. So vegans and vegetarians are becoming more prevalent, and the rates of autism is becoming more apparent. And one of the reasons is because of this lack of carnitine. So this is not going to affect everyone. You have to have the genetic predisposition and the environmental trigger. So previously, when everyone knew that meat was really important to get, this is where the nutrients were, you had to have this in your diet, they went after meat, and they tried to get meat. And so you didn't really see this as much in the population. So it was quite low. But now that people are purposefully avoiding meat, it's starting to become more prevalent. And so if you have a kid that has this issue and they're not making enough carnitine, let's say they're vegetarian and they're getting a bit of carnitine in some chicken or fish or maybe some eggs or dairy, but they're not eating too much of that, and and they're mostly eating vegetables, and they don't make any carnitine at all, they're going to be deficient, and they're going to develop this form of autism. Then the vegans, they don't eat any animal products at all. So even if they're slightly deficient in their ability to make carnitine, because they're not getting anything in their diet, they'll still get this type of autism. And this is completely preventable and reversible